Welcome to another S&P 500 analysis. Today is April 2nd, 2023. Since the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank, the S&P 500 whipped more than 300 points higher. Some claim it is due to the Fed's recent increase in its balance sheet and believe the Fed will cut interest rates soon in 2023. But from recent price action, one thing is clear. There has been a lot of short squeeze. In this video, I will show you some of the short squeeze that have taken place on the S&P 500 in the last trading session. And before I show you that, we'll take a look at the market sentiment, market internals, the price action of the S&P 500 and other major market indexes, the US dollar, the 10-year yield, oil, silver, and the gold market, and see what they are telling us about where the market might be headed. Let's do a quick rundown on the indexes and see how they did last week. As you can see, the Dow Jones Transportation was the best performer for the week. It gained a little bit over 5.3%, and the Dow Jones Industrial at the bottom of the list and gained a little bit under 3.25%. But also one thing to notice is that they all had a gain of 3% or more. And also looking at the month end, since the March have come to an end, let's see how they did for the month. And you can see that the Nasdaq 100 gained almost 9.5%, and the Nasdaq Composite gained almost 6.75%. The S&P 500 3.5%. And the Russell 2000 is the worst performer for the month. It lost almost 5%. And for year to date, the best performer is the Nasdaq 100. It gained 20.5%, followed by the Nasdaq Composite 16.7%, and the Dow Jones Transportation almost 8%, S&P 500 7%, and the worst performer is the Dow Jones Industrial. It gained just a little bit over 1/3%. And looking at this weekly chart of the S&P 500, we see that the S&P 500 last week, it had a range almost 160 points. Like we said before, it gained 138 points or 3.5%. It is continuing this one-time framing up, and what that means is it is continuing to make higher high. And also it closed above this 10-week and also this 40-week moving average. In addition, it is inside at the top edge of this 10-month trading range. So we'll see will it be able to break above this and get above this 4,200 level. And we'll take a look at this price action in a little bit more detail later on in this video. If you find the content in this video to be informative and useful, be sure to smash the thumbs up to give it a like and help me promote this video on YouTube. And if you are new to this channel and like to continue to watch these videos from me, then subscribe. Now let's take a look at this sentiment chart here. As you can see, the VIX here showing the market participant are not much fearful nowadays. It dipped below this 20-30 zone, and it is underneath the 20, close at 18.7 on Friday. And also the put call ratio is still above this 0.75, between 0.75 and 1. So we are seeing that the market participant, although they are much less fearful, but they are still not all risk on, and they are a little bit risk off, but they basically more in a hedge mode here, being cautious. And looking at this market internal, the up-down volume ratio, notice the entire week, the up-down volume ratio was positive. And even though we had a down day on Tuesday, but nevertheless, the up-down volume ratio was positive along with the daily advanced decline. And we see the advanced daily decline is up above this 1,500 level. So that's kind of indicating to us that the upside was pretty broad market-based for the week. Also, the other thing to note is in the New York Stock Exchange, we are beginning to see more new 52-week high once again over 52-week low. You see on Friday, there were 66 stock make new 52-week high versus only 19 stock make new 52-week low. Now, the only cautionary thing that we see on the market internal is the cumulative AD line. Remember, we still have this negative divergence that we're still waiting to get resolved, and we're waiting for the S&P 500 to take out this low. In addition, you notice that the advanced decline line did come up, and also the S&P 500. It is higher than this pivot high here now. So we're actually seeing another negative divergence here, because we notice that the advanced decline did not get above this pivot high, while the S&P 500 is above this pivot high. So we are seeing this negative divergence on this upside. And also, we're still waiting for this negative divergence to get resolved. So again, we could see a pullback and come down to this pivot low here. And this is the March low. And now for the NASDAQ market, we did see a couple strong buy day for the NASDAQ on Wednesday and on Friday. Thursday was a little bit weak. And also the daily advance decline also show bond market advance on Wednesday and Friday. Now the new 52-week high is still, kind of below the number of stock making new 52-week low. Although the number of stock of 52-week low is, declining now, and not as high as a week ago. That was up at the 3,400 level. So right now we are seeing the new 52-week low versus 52-week high decreasing now the margin. On Friday, we only saw 51 more new 52-week low versus the number of stock making 52-week high. And here, looking at the NASDAQ cumulative AD line, once again, we are seeing a negative divergence here. You see this cumulative AD line is making a lower high, while the NASDAQ 100 is making a higher high. Matter of fact, it took out this pivot high here. And right now, we are still looking at a advanced decline way below that high back here. So definitely, we're waiting for the market to pull back. And most likely we'll see a stronger pullback from the NASDAQ market once it's starting to do that. We are still looking for a pullback to this pivot low. Now let's take a look at the sectors in the S&P 500. As you can see for the week, the energy was the best performer, gaining over 6%, while the discretionary about 5.5%. And also real estate is about 5%, and the material also 5%. The worst performer was the healthcare, only gained 1.7%. With the technology and the financial, it's in the middle of the pack, in there between 3 and 4%. Now, for the month of March, the best performer was the technology, the XLK, gained over 10.5%. With the communication, a little bit over 8%. And the worst performer was the financial. It lost almost 10%. And for the year to date, the technology is still holding a gain of over 21%, with communication also closely behind that with almost 21%, and the consumer discretionary almost 16%. Now, the worst performer, or those sectors that had a loss for at the year to date, is the utility is losing almost 4%, the healthcare 4.7%, energy 5.3%, and financial almost 6%. Now let's take a quick rundown of each of these sectors here. Looking at the technology, you can see the technology is way above this 134.92, but also looking at the relative strength chart here, this is the ratio between the sector and the S&P 500. So it is showing a little bit of an exhaustion here because the relative strength is slightly under this peak here, while the price is continuing to move up. It appears that it might be coming up here at this 152 level, potential resistance here. So we'll see what it be able to get above this peak here and continue to move up, or what is starting to pull back a little bit. And here, looking at the healthcare, you see the healthcare relative strength is coming down. So it's underperformed the S&P 500 a bit recently, but it is coming up, and it could be hitting this pivot high here, potential resistance near this 129.50. So again, we could see a little bit of a pullback in the coming days. And for consumer discretionary, the consumer discretionary have been outperforming the S&P 500 recently, and also it broke above this resistance here. Right now, it seems to be sitting above this pivot low here. So we'll see would it be able to continue to come up and maybe tagging this 153.80, 154 level, and even possibly come up to this 157.5. The financial continue to underperform, although we did get a little bit of a pop here a couple of days ago, last week. But the thing is, it is bumping up against this resistance here. You see that also some resistance up here near this 32.5 or so. So we'll see would it be able to come up and get above that 32.5 and possibly come up to the next potential resistance level, maybe near this 33 level here, or would it reverse back down and come down and test this area here again at this 30.14 level. In the communication sector, it seems to be, try to get a little bit upside once again after a little bit of a pullback, underperforming the S&P 500 at the beginning of last week. Right now, it is, got above this 56.75 here. We'll see would it be able to come up to this pivot high near the 60 level here. And for the industrial is sort of flat, although it is underperformed the last few sessions. But the price is making a higher high here on this one-time framing up on a daily basis. And it is above this pivot high here. So we'll see would it continue to come up and possibly get up to this 104 level, or would it come back down to retest this level. And the consumer stable been underperformed the S&P 500, and it has appeared to come up to this resistance area. So we could see a little bit of a pullback from the stable. If it's continue to push, then we probably could see the next potential resistance area near this area here, somewhere around 75.80 area. And for the energy is trying to make a little bit of a comeback, although right now it's still relatively flat in terms of performance relative to the S&P 500. Although the price did break above this 78.55 and also above this pivot high here at 80.33. So right now it's bumping up against this resistance here near 83. So we're basically watching it to see would it come back and back test this pivot high, or would it continue to push higher and get up to this 87 and a half area. And for the real estate sector, it seems to be outperformed the S&P 500 in the recent days here, and it is above this 35.85. So maybe it is making a little bit of a comeback. We'll see would it be able to continue to push up and see would it get up to this 39 area, this 38.97 area, or would it come back down and dip below this pivot high here, this 35.85, and come back and retest the recent low. Also, looking at the material sector, it has also been outperforming the S&P 500 recently, and it is above this pivot high and also got up above this resistance area at the 79.20. So we'll see would be able to continue to push up and get up to this 84.75 area, or would it come back down and retest this 76.66 level. And finally, for the utility is pretty much just kind of chopping around near this level here. So it is still sort of underperforming the S&P 500 on a little bit of a longer term. It's pretty much flat relative to the S&P 500 performance. And right now, it is sitting up here trying to get up above this pivot high here. So we'll see would it be able to get above this 68 level, or would it come back down. And looking at this like a little bit of a trading range here. So maybe it will just kind of bouncing back down to the 64 level. Let's take a look at the US dollar. The US dollar got a nice bounce off of this just near the 101 level and came back up to this 105.60, 105.70 area and then pulled back. So right now it is sitting at 102.59. We'll see would it be able to come back up. And let me switch it over to the future contract for the US dollar. And looking at the dollar index future, we can see with the volume profile, we see that it is sitting right at this edge here of this value area here. So what I'll be watching is would it be able to get up and get above this low volume zone here and get back up above near this 103 area and possibly come up to this composite point of control near the 104. Now, if it is unable to come up to this balance area and remain down here, then I'd be looking for a possibility of retracing back down to this 101.30 area here for the US dollar. And looking at the 10-year yield, we see the 10-year yield also got a nice bounce off of this 3.3 level. And right now it seems to be just kind of sitting at this 3.5. We could see it come back down to this 3.4, maybe just chop around here before it pushes back up to this 3.9. Or if it dips below this 3.3, then we probably could see it come down to this 3.1. So that's what I will be watching to see would it be able to hold this 3.4 and push up. Or if it breaks below this 3.4, then be looking for a possible move down to this 3.1.5, 3.2 level. Looking at crude oil, you see crude oil came up to this low volume zone here. And right now it is sitting right at this edge here. So if it could get above this edge, then I'd be watching for the possibility of retracing back up to this level, somewhere around this 82.76 level here. Now, if it dips back down to below the 69.5, then I'd be looking for this retracement back to the lower edge or this low volume zone here, down here near the 60 level. Here we are looking at silver. As you can see, silver is getting inside of this high volume balance area here, and right now it's sitting at this 24.25 area. Watch this trend line. If we could get above this 25 level, then I expect to see silver to come up to this composite point of control near the 26.70 area. Now, if it pulls back, then I'd be watching for this level here, this 21.85 level, to see will it provide some support and get a bounce back up, because it is at the edge of this balance area here, this lower edge of this balance area, and I do expect to see possible support here. If it's not, then it dips below this area, then it will come back down to this lower balance area. Then we could possibly see silver retrace back down to this $19 level. But right now, looking at the price action, it seems to be biasing toward the upside. So I'll be watching this trend line here at this $25 level. And looking at gold here, we see gold have broke out of this balance area here. So right now I'm watching to see would it be a look above and fail. If it come back in and start moving back down toward this 1925 and unable to push back up, then I'd be watching gold to retrace itself back down to this 1750 area. But right now I'm more inclined of looking at gold to do a test and go, sort of thing. Is that come up, it came up to this balance area here and went to this high volume node here. It came up to this 2025 and got rejected back down. So we'll see would it be able to push back up above this 2025 once again. If it does, then I'd be looking for gold to come up to this 2060 area, this low volume area here, and see what it break through and start making its move up to this high here. So I am looking at gold to a possibility of taking out this high. If it dips below, get back into this high volume area, this balance area, then yeah, we could see gold come back down possibly to this 1750 level. But if we remain up above this 2000 level, if we get to stay above the 2000 level and get above this 2015 area, then I'd be watching the 2060 and then the 2150. Let's take a look at the price action of the S&P 500 on the daily time frame here. On this chart here, you can see that the S&P 500 broke this trend line last week. And in addition to that, it also closed above the upper range of the weekly expected move last week on Friday. So right now we are looking at this range for the coming week between the 4177 and 4166 for the upper range and 4052 and 4035 for the lower range of the weekly expected move. So for the coming week, we could see possibly a little bit of a pullback and maybe come down and test this lower range of the expected move and also come back down to this zone here and sort of back test this area and then make another push and possibly get back above this 4177 level and maybe make its way up to this 4200 and get away from this upper edge of this balance area that we have marked off. And looking at the NASDAQ 100, we see the NASDAQ 100 move above this balance area here and close above the weekly expected move, the upper range of the weekly expected move, and above 13,000. So for the coming week, we are looking at the upper range between 13,470 and 13,420, and the lower range 12,940 and 12,860. So what we could see possibly is a little bit of a pullback and possibly come down to this lower range of the expected move. Then if we could stay above this balance area, then we could see a bounce back up and possibly make another move for this 13,500 area and possibly get up to this pivot high here near 13,700. For the Russell 2000, last week we saw it broke above this 1786 and got above the 1800 level. And there is a little gap here, and this gap is somewhere around 1817 area. So we'll see, would it be able to come up and fill this gap? Otherwise, we are still monitoring the Russell 2000 to pull back and get down to this 1640 area because it is still in the process of retracing this swing here from this upper edge of this balance area to the lower edge of this balance area. And for the Dow Jones Transportation, we see the Dow Jones Transportation got a nice bounce off of this 13,500 area and got back above this 14,250 zone. And right now it's sitting at this 14,500 area. So we'll see, because I'm still looking for this thing to retrace back down to this lower edge of this balance area because it is still in this trend here, still on this downtrend. So we're possibly just kind of getting a little bit of a pullback up to this trend line and then make another push down. And for the Dow Jones Industrial, the Dow Jones Industrial got above this zone here. So right now sitting at above that 33,000. We'll see would it be able to get above this 33,600 area and possibly come back up to this upper edge of this balance area near the 34,280, because I'm still looking for this to retrace back down, although it's appeared to have broken this trend line here. And that's why I want to see would it be able to get above this pivot high. And if it doesn't come back down below this 33,200 or 33,000 level, then I still be looking for this thing to come back down and possibly test this 30,000 area. And for the New York Stock Exchange Composite, we see that it is coming up, bumping up against this potential resistance here. And also it could be bumping up against this trend line as well. Although it did make a nice move after this double bottom here. So now we are watching to see would it be able to get above this and start moving up toward this 15,750 at this level here, or would it come back down and check this 15,000 level once again. Now, let me show you some of the short squeeze. Basically, looking at the volume profile, we could tell based on the shape of the profile and the volume that go to various price level, we could see this accumulation or short squeeze, a little bit of a bull run, that sort of thing. Now, I have posted a video on how to set up this fixed range volume profile, showing you how to identify potential resistance and support level. But in this exercise here, we're actually using the fixed volume profile to identify various profile shape, so that kind of give us some idea of what sort of price action is taking place within those price level. So let's zoom in on this here. This is what opened on Friday. Right, so let me zoom in and then we could take a closer look at the price action. So you zoom in and the price came up, and you see that the people that were holding short did not see the price come back down and dip below the opening low, so they came up and start covering the short, and that's what it built up. And then we have new set of buyer here and found acceptance. So, and also once they come up to this level here, the buyer feel that the price is a little bit too high. So we essentially got a little bit of a cutoff in the buyer. So any seller that want to sell has to lower their offering price and back down into this value area, and that's where we see a lot of buying and selling activity took place during the first half an hour or so, well, actually almost an hour. So that's where the price was starting to stabilize here. And then we got another run of the buyers coming up and push the price higher. So once again, we basically got setting new value up here between this 40650 area, 40640 area. You see the volume building up here, so it's finding a lot of acceptance. There were maybe some short seller here thinking that it will pull back and come back down. But once the price start coming back up and take out the high here and then squeeze up, then they also come in and did a little bit of a short covering. Then the buyers also continue to buy up here and start building value, accepting value here. And you see that it accepted value all the way up and then come down here and continue to accept value all the way to up to this 40760 area. Then we have a little bit of a profit taking because we got a little bit of a cutoff here on the buyer, and we got a little bit of a pullback, but still it pulled back to this value area. You see this volume is building up at this these price level here, so it's still building value and came down here. We got a little bit of a seller cutoff here. That's basically the price level that the seller say, hey, too low for me to sell. I'm not willing to sell any lower than this price here. So then we have these buyer start accumulating down here, but apparently there are still some seller willing to sell at these price range here. So you see there's a little bit of a price acceptance. And then once the price acceptance came in and took out this high here, right, took out this pivot high, then you see a little bit of squeeze coming up, and it just kind of squeezed all the way back up to this level up here above this high. And then we see that the soon as the shorts are completely covered, we did not see new buyer coming in, fresh buyer. Then you see that it come back down. And where did it come back down to? Well, it came back down to where the short squeeze was started from here. And then we start building value once again. We got buyers that's wanting to buy at these level now. And then we see, and again, once you get up above this high here, we see a little bit of a short squeeze and squeeze up. And again, we got buyer willing to buy up here because we see that there are a little bit of price acceptance here because we got volume building up here. And then once it get above this high, we did another squeeze up and run off these short that was thinking that it might be tracing back down here because of this consolidation area. And the short is basically was building their short position, looking for a pullback down to this level, and that did not materialize. And as soon as it took out this high here, you see the squeeze came up and then squeezed all the way up to this 409 area. And then it liquidated once again because there was not really that much of a new buyer willing to buy at these high prices. And then came back down and starting to accept value right near this 408 and 408.40 area. Then once it consolidated here, and you see that we still have short, is trying to shorting this thing back down. And then once it get above these pivot high here, we see another short squeeze and squeeze it up to the close. So that's how you use this fixed range volume profile to mark off various price range. And then you look at the profile shape to get some idea what the price action was taking place. When you see lack of volume here, right there, you see a liquidation coming down. And if you see lack of volume here, like here, this is basically a short squeeze because the short covering usually do at market price. So they're just, hey, just buy it, whatever it is, just buy it. I just want to get out of my short position. And that's where you get these, market move here with very low volume and then shot up. So there's also another video that I put out talking about volume profile characteristic trading strategy. So you might want to also check out those video if you're unfamiliar with the volume profile. I have the link in the description below. So hopefully you find this interesting and useful and provide you some additional insight on how to detect various price action using volume profile. Thank you for watching.